Hi, guys. Welcome back to Choose Love Anyway. I'm Dina.
And I'm Dahlia.
And tonight we are going to be discussing, well, it might be daytime for you, but it's nighttime for us. We are going to be telling you guys a little bit more about ourselves and our story, where we're at now, kind of how we move through the world. And I think that for me, this episode means a lot because I look up to people so much and I feel like I really connect to people that have gone through what I've gone through, and they don't have to also. I think there's a lot of beauty in differences and just like what makes other people interesting is when we are different because I feel like I can learn more from them, but I do feel like I can connect with people on a deeper level if they it doesn't have to be exactly the same kind of hardships or situations, but I do feel like when I hear people talk about where they came from, I it gives me a sense of hope and faith. It just like helps me keep going in the hard times, and especially if
Mm.
people are like, "Oh, I came from nothing and then I am here," or like I got knocked down this many times and then I kept going. And it's like, not that it should be a hero's journey all the time. I'm kind of trying to like move away from that. But I do think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of beauty in that and a lot of hope and faith and strength and bravery. Just hearing I call them expanders, but pretty much like the people who have gone through similar things that I feel like I'm going through, it feels easier to believe that things are gonna be okay because I'm seeing them, and
Mm.
I feel like they've gone through, like, the more similar their situation is to mine, and they got through it, the easier it makes it for me to have faith and hope. So I hope that today you can find something to relate to maybe in terms of just so many things that we have gone through in our lives, but how we came here and how we ended up in this very moment right here.
Thank you, Dina. That was beautiful. If nothing else, if you don't relate to our experience, you can also, we hope you just enjoy hearing our story and getting to know us a little better. But I wanted to say also to what you're saying, the phrase about being an expander, what you can see, you can believe, you can become. And so that's the idea of expanders, right? People in your life where you can see someone go through a hard time, you believe that it's possible to get through something, and then you can, right, become that. You can do that. So, I really love that. That's
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
okay, I'll start. I was born in Moscow, Russia, and Dina was born a year and 3 months and 3 days later in Egypt because our mom is Russian and our dad is Egyptian. We lived in Egypt for a brief few years and then we moved back to Moscow and then we moved to Belarusia and our grandmother helped raise us while she was taking care of our great grandfather. And then when I was 9 and Dina was 7, turning 8, once we moved I always have to that detail is always a little fuzzy
That
for me.
detail really matters to me. I don't know why.
We moved to America because our mom got remarried. We spoke no English. We got sent to school like 2 weeks after we moved to America. We had instability in our childhood. Our mom was a single mom for a long time, for much of those, like, first, 8, 9 years. So moving to America was one of the biggest kind of experiences for us of being really destabilizing because we completely changed environments. Even though it was hard to live without our mom in Belarus, where we lived with our grandmother, and it was hard not having, your actual parent there taking care of you because, as you know, it's so different to have your parent versus your grandparent. And when your grandparent's with you all the time, it's generational, right? Like that's another generation up and there's way less tools there. So we were raised without a lot of the things that I'm able to offer my daughters now. And we made the most of it. Our they also made the most of it. Your grandmother took us to all the activities. She tried to have us involved in all the wonderful programs. And, we got to have all 4 seasons living there and really fun winters. We would walk to school in the snow. We knew that circumstances weren't ideal, but I feel that we got to still experience a pretty magical childhood despite all things that were also going on. The fact that we both longed to have like a mom and dad all growing up and to kind of have this family unit that we dreamt about. And then moving to America, that's all around you, right? Like that's kind of being almost sold to you. That's the American dream is to have this like nuclear family. And so when we moved here, it was actually for me, it was so exciting. I was so excited to have a dad, to have a mom and a dad together. But yeah, we got thrown into going to school when we were really, yeah, like I said, we didn't speak any English. We were 2 weeks here and we went to school. And that was probably a really great way for us to learn the language, but it was extremely difficult and it was embarrassing. And you can imagine all the things. We had an accent for a while. To Dina and I's credit, we did pick up the language pretty quickly. Shout out to
Shout
Disney.
out to Disney. Yeah. We both
Disney
were
Channel
like,
picks this
all
up.
hail
So
Disney Channel.
praise Disney Channel. It's hard, I feel like I want to say this right now, which is we've tried to record this episode a couple times now. And I think that in the like theme or energy of being transparent, there's so much of our story that if we sat here and actually told you our story from start to finish, we'd probably be here for many, many hours. And so trying to figure out what parts aren't too tender or too exposing has actually been hard for me. And I've actually like sat with some things as you would. It's kind of felt like therapy at times when we've been retelling the beginning of our story and it's opening up things where I thought I had kind of just moved past that in my life. And the truth is I have. We both have. But that child is still inside of you, right? And we will talk about inner child work and things like that. But I guess what I want to say is I'm not trying to just skim over some of these things. We have decided what our boundaries are here too, of just like how much we're willing to share. Because ultimately, Choose Love Anyway isn't just, about our stories, but we do want to invite you and make you feel like you're our friend and that you know us. And then you can maybe more easily just trust that we have, good intentions and that um, that it hasn't always been easy for us to choose love anyway, that we're not just on here having lived a really kind of easy life. And so, of course, it's easy for us to say, choose love anyway. I think oftentimes that's our defense, right? When someone asks us to choose love, it's like, well, it's so easy for you to choose love. You have no hardship in your life. And we have been in times of both in our life. And I think that we just really want to be honest. And so I also say this because if there's more questions that you have, or if you want us to share about the experience of moving to America or the experience of being an immigrant, and maybe we will do another episode about that because that
Or
did
the
shape a lot of our
experience of not
development.
growing up, sorry, not to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
the experience of not growing up with a mom and dad. Because
yeah,
as you
yeah,
were talking about
big
it, I'm
family.
like, well, we longed for mom, but we also saw our mom for reference probably 2 or 3 times a year growing up.
Mhm.
So probably from the age of
Well, for
3
yeah,
too
yeah.
to that's 8, 9 age. And so there was a lot of emotions with coming here. There's like the excitement of it and what you expect and the dreaminess and, the imagination. And then there's the reality. And when those two come together, and some of it was better than we expected, but I think more of it was a lot not worse than we expected, but I think we were pretty disappointed in more ways than we probably wanted.
Yeah. And just being that age is pretty disappointing. You're just a preteen and then you enter being a teenager. And that already, no matter what your circumstances are, is already kind of a disappointing time because, you've kind of wanted to grow up, but then suddenly you're about to hit puberty and the emotions are high and the hormones are high and you're trying to figure out who you are and your body's changing and your hair's changing. Like, fun fact, I had pin straight hair until I hit puberty. And then suddenly it
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh, I
Dina's
forgot
always
that.
cutest. Dina has always had the cutest curly hair, and I always loved it. And so I don't know if that was like a gift from God or something. Like you're at 13, this is terrible. This is a hard time for you. Lots of things come with puberty, but you get curly hair, which at first I was actually kind of also just, what do I do with this hair? I've never had to take care of curly hair. It's just funny things like that, right? Where it's so disorienting being that age. And then on top of that, having kind of this, wound that we were carrying around, right? Which is wanting to be lovable, not wanting to be rejected, wanting to fit in, wanting to belong. And so already having some of that wound, moving to America and wanting to fit in so badly there. And unfortunately, our parents did not put us in locations where there was a ton of diversity. I mean, we lived in North Carolina, like there just isn't a ton of different types of people, like from different countries, right? We had a couple friends who were, but it's not the least diverse place, but it's not in diverse in the way that like here where I live in California is. And Southern California could use more diversity as well. But anyway, or like let's say New York, right? The image that we were trying to fit, um,
Very basic.
yeah,
Like,
it was
I
very
mean, no offense, no
stereotypical, right?
offense.
And very,
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, community. So, and we don't mean to say this in a way that's like, yeah, we don't mean to offend at all. And I also want to say our mother listens to this, our family listens to this. We have a really beautiful relationship with our mom now, and we know how to hold boundaries, and our mom really tries to respect our boundaries. But there's still this part of a story, which is her story is so real and her lived experience is so real. And so if she was to retell this same story of our childhood or her life, she was experiencing a life too. And now being a mother, like my experience and my daughter's experiences are so different. Like my daughters wouldn't even be able to describe what my experience is because they don't know at this age, right? So we have so much grace for our mom. And me, I speak for myself a lot. And this is since becoming a mom, I have so much more grace for my mom. I admire my mom so much for all the sacrifices that she made. We both do. And we're so lucky to have all the people that did step in and help our mom take care of us and raise us. And we're grateful for to our stepdad. He did his very best. He tried his best. And I guess what we want to say is like, yes, we have lots of wounds that we've been healing from. And it was not ideal at times. And it was hard. And we also want this story of hope, which is you can move through painful experiences that like you can hurt someone. No parent is perfect. We will all have to if we desire to have that like beautiful, honest connection with someone, have to take accountability for our actions. I think that's probably one of the ways that we have seen healing in our own relationship, which is actually saying, this is how I've been hurt, and allowing the other person to one, hear you, and then to validate that feeling. And not everybody's able to do that. And it's taken a lot of time to do that. And sometimes you won't ever hear that. But there's hope in relationships, in painful relationships, and relationships that have been, where parents have been imperfect, where caretakers haven't been exactly what you needed at that time. And that you can move past that and it doesn't have to like be the thing that kind of controls your life. I don't know. You can absolutely add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think going back to mom and how you're saying that, yes, like we have a beautiful relationship with her now. No relationship is perfect. Our relationship is not perfect. So anything we say, we're not trying to ever make it seem that way, but it's so much more regulated and it's so much less reactivity or anger or lashing out or not talking for a long time or just feeling really frustrated and hurt and lonely. And I think there's a lot less ego in it or pride, if you will. And I
Mm.
think that also our experience of our childhood is very different than mom's and grandma's, or if you ask them, everybody has a different perspective. And so, if you asked our mom, I think one of the hardest things was when we did open up, it was like, how could you possibly have trauma? Or how could you possibly have had any of this? Or what do you mean you didn't have safety or belonging or love? Or,
Mhm.
I think something that has helped both of us is to really hold space and put ourselves in her shoes the best that we can and just try to imagine being a single mom, trying to imagine being in the Soviet Union, trying to imagine where there was a time when you could afford an apartment with the amount you had of money you had, and then the next day you couldn't even afford a loaf of bread. That survival mentality, it looks so different. And the survival that that generation had, that mom had to endure, was very much about food, clothing, money, surviving physically and financially and having that be stable. So in that way, yes, absolutely. Like that was her goal, to provide us that. And that's exactly what she did. She worked, she went and lived in other countries, she was making money. And so to understand the feelings behind the behavior, or her intentions behind the behavior, maybe doesn't justify the behavior. Or of course we wish we could have been with her more in our childhood, but that wasn't her intent. Her intent wasn't to not be with us. It's looking at it as her intent was to take care of us the best that she could. And that was the best that she could give us at that time with the resources that she had. And I think holding that space for her, like, I don't know why I'm like getting choked up. I just feel like this is, I don't know. It's like I wasn't even expecting this as I'm hearing you speak about it. I just think about how far we have come with mom and how far we've come in our relationship. And it's so painful to let down that wall, to think that, like, why didn't you do this for me? Why didn't I have that? Why didn't I have this nuclear family? Why did all of these things happen to me? And it's knowing and seeing all the beauty that did happen for you and seeing the intent, because, oh my gosh, does
But
our mom
also,
love us so
yeah,
much, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And also to your point, I think that's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. And I wish I could give you a hug. Yeah, I think that also to that point, we also moved from one culture to another. And so what we thought we wanted or needed also changed because, it's actually not super traditional in Russia. Like women work a lot. It's not super traditional to see like your mom always, with you. And we moved to America, especially in the area like suburbia where like, saw that often. This mom being involved. She's going to all the school events. She's doing all the things. And also just the standard shifted. And that was also hard. But as kids, we did not think the way that we think now as adults. And so I want to say that your journey of having to sit with all those things, we've spent years like processing things. For me, it really has taken like the last 10 years to really unravel things, feel my pain, have periods of time where me and my mom have to take space because the wounds are just open. I didn't want to just blame her. I didn't want to be cruel to her. There's a phrase that I really love in the Course of Miracles, and it's reminding someone of their own guilt. And there's been periods where I couldn't not remind her of her own guilt. And so I had to take space because I didn't want to cause harm, but also my pain was real and valid. And so I think sometimes it's okay that you have distance in your relationships at times because the healing journey is a journey. Becoming a mom was hard and it opened up a lot of my childhood wounds. And so my mom and I did have some distance during that time. And that was probably really hard for my mom to give me that space, but also in a way, like, I'm so grateful she gave me that because I think it's brought us to a really great place now, to a relationship where I'm so grateful for and where I do feel that I can come to my mom and really feel her love. And also, as I've been a parent and it's been difficult, my mom knows well how to not feel like a perfect mom. And she never tried to pretend that she was perfect. And then now, when I've had moments, especially in the last 6 months and this year, of not feeling like a perfect mom, my mom was there to just sit with me as I just cried about how I felt so inadequate. And she knew exactly what I felt. And so I think it's knowing that every moment, wherever you might be right now in your relationship with your parent, with your sibling, with your friend, with anyone in your life, with your father, with anybody, grandparent, this isn't the end. Like it's not the end. It's just a process. It's part of the journey. And so I guess that's why we're saying this is to just offer hope that I think also it's okay to be angry at some point. We have now come to this place, but I think feeling the anger, feeling the pain, it's all part of the journey. And we just want to encourage that because that's been part of our journey. And if we sound like we have healed a lot of things, is because we've worked really hard to. But that doesn't mean that, you should just gloss over the pain.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like you just put things in such a beautiful way, and I really
Mm.
appreciate it. And
Great.
I wanted to say, yeah, I think it was after my divorce that I think for me personally, mom saw how much I tried to do, how much I tried to do what she wanted me to do. And I think I did need to take space, but also she was so there for me. And I don't think I could have done anything without her. Like she will
Mhm.
always be there for us. And I think in some ways, not growing up with her, we have a very best friend relationship, but then we also value her opinion a lot. So we do have to state boundaries. And it's hard because I wanna talk about some of these things with her, but I know I value her opinion so much, but our
That it makes
ideas of
you doubt whether
living.
what do you really
Yes,
want? It like puts you in a place
exactly, so
where like, is this what I want? Or is it that now you're saying this? Yeah, it's almost
and
like you
now
don't
I want it.
yeah.
Exactly, and so I wanted to go back and just pedal back a little bit when I said that generation of survival. What I think has been the hardest thing is that the generations before us, their life and their survival looked really different,
Yeah.
whereas our surviving is different in the sense that we are wanting safety, like a safe space. We have it's kind of like that hierarchy of needs. It's like we have food, we have clothes, and we're so beyond grateful for that. And then when you have that, there comes a new set of challenges, a new set of survival where it's that belonging, longing for connection, depth. Um, you have this other sense of survival in your own way. And I think there is a really beautiful quote that I would like to share about trauma. I think actually I don't think I need to even pull it up on my phone. I think it's trauma is any perceived helplessness, any time that you have
Mm.
perceived helplessness. And I think one of our attempts to record this episode was we said how like you not getting picked up at school or you seeing that your parent was the only one not at a school function versus like you're scared for your life physically, you also have that same psychologically, mentally, your body, physical response, like the heart rate's up, all of that, the anxiety
Yeah,
is
you're in
still the
danger, yeah.
same. Yeah, that perception of danger and helplessness is very much the same, even though they're completely different experiences.
Yeah.
And we never want to downplay that like we are so grateful for where we're at, but I we also don't want to downplay that it doesn't make our challenges, our traumas, our feelings any less. And I think I want to encourage that for others too.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And
Of course.
validate that on both ends, like
Yeah.
validate mom and her generation and then also validate ours. And I
Yeah.
think it wasn't until, kind of my breakdown that I finally broke open and realized,
Yeah.
oh, I have been living as if I'm trying to survive this way. Like it just felt like I was doing things not for myself, and that's not her fault. It's just
Yeah,
the
but I
way we
think
were raised.
Yeah, but I think that also when you do see someone make sacrifices for you and they remind you of that too, you want to make their life worth it. Like you want to make the sacrifices they made worth it. And as a kid, that's just impossible. And honestly, that's not even what someone wants. That's not even actually what mom wants, but it's impossible for a human to please another human enough that their sacrifice was worth it, because that is just not how it works. I don't even know exactly how to even say this because it
No,
sounds almost
I
like
get
they
it.
are.
I
Yeah,
think I heard somewhere in a podcast it was like a lot of our generation or like cultural, maybe not Americans, but I think a lot of these other cultures where people are looked at, you have to be a doctor, entrepreneur, a
yeah.
lawyer, those kind of cultures. I think most people know what I'm talking about. It's
Mhm.
almost like you are an actress and your parents were the
Mm,
directors. And
right.
I fully felt that. And it was only when I like had my breakdown that I was like, I'm not directing this movie, but it feels so real, like
But
it
it feels
feels
so
so
real.
real.
Yeah,
But then I
yeah,
think also in that moment, it was like mom realized all she wanted was the best for me. And to her,
of course.
that was the best, right? But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was my life because that's her idea of what's best. But for
yeah,
me, I had to figure out what my best looks like.
yeah.
And I think another thing that makes me emotional is that the way I see you with Emil and Lucy and Derek,
Mhm.
it actually still, how you said, like, we still have these triggers. I think watching, especially Derek, something tender about the father wound too, is watching how he'll like pick up and throw the girls or play with them or after he gets off work and he's like, where are my beautiful girls? And they're like, Daddy. And it is, oh my gosh, it just like makes me kind of emotional. Just wonder sometimes I think a part of me just gets a little tender, and triggered. It's like, "Oh, I remember seeking that," I remember my
Totally.
13-year-old self seeking that love and connection. I was gonna say, I think my healing with all of the relationships in my life didn't start happening till the last 2 years. And so I was gonna say that watching them, they have that, like, I will never know. It's accepting that I will never know what it was like to come home to dad and get, like, be played with like that or to just feel so loved by the male figure in your life, that just unconditional, unwavering love. And I
Yeah.
think, like you said, like our stepdad, we call him dad now, but he tried his best.
He
And
tried to create magic the best that he could, and he did.
yeah,
We have beautiful memories with him too, but
yeah,
that's
I'll never forget the Easter bunny.
yeah, the
That was
Easter
pretty cool. Yeah, he made, for
very
reference, he used flour and he made fake, well, sorry if any kids are listening to this, the Easter bunny is
yeah, turn
definitely
this off
real.
if kids are
But he
listening, children.
made little footsteps. I don't know, are they called paws? Like,
Yeah.
whatever, on a bunny. They're bunny prints, um,
Yeah, yes,
on the
on the
steps and to the door, and it was the coolest thing. And also, there's no Easter bunny in Russia, so we fully, like, believed in this when we moved here, and then the following year, I couldn't even get up to pee in the middle of the night because I was like, "Dahlia, the Easter bunny's out there, like, I'm scared, you gotta come with me." So, like, there was magic in that, you
yeah,
know?
so funny that you remember that. Yeah, so there was ways in which Dean and I tend to create magic. And maybe that is the gift of having grown up the way that we did. We find some of the most simple things magical, like just living and being alive and breathing and walking outside and just being in nature or interacting with another human being or really just being alive. I think that sometimes when someone isn't creating your magic constantly for you, which I think a lot of parents do now just because they want to give their children a magical childhood. But the thing about children and magic of children is they can create that all on their own. And then that's what we did, you know? So I do think that there are gifts in the way that we were raised, and we're grateful for that. And that takes me back to, we kind of took a little tangent just because as a mom now, I think I just am really tender. I never want to, I don't know, I never want it to feel like we're just sitting here, not giving our mother grace, or anyone, because just being human is hard. Choose Love Anyway is about that. It's about honoring the human experience of everybody and that it's hard to be human. And we believe that, your worth is never changing. Everyone is good inside. And if that is the truth, then there's just bad choices, not bad people. At least we hope. That's what we hope for, right? That there's always forgiveness and there's a pathway to that. It might just take a really long time, and that's okay. And yeah, and so then I want to go back a little bit to when we moved to America. We kind of talked about that. If you want to hear more about that, we'd love to share about it. Probably lots of funny stories in there, honestly.
Mhm.
And then as well as really sad ones too. But moving on, we lived in North Carolina, and then by the time I was 19, I moved to Utah. I had met my husband on a trip. I can also talk about that in another episode. Dina stayed in North Carolina, and then she joined me out in Utah shortly after. And then 7 years ago, me and my husband moved here to California for his job, and I was finishing up my degree. I had always wanted to study psychology. I ended up studying accounting, and then I got a marketing degree because I found that marketing seemed a little bit more like me. And then I finished that, and I decided I still want to get a degree in psychology. But then at that same time, me and my husband wanted to get pregnant. And so we thought, oh, this could take a while. Let's just start trying. And then right away, we got pregnant with twins, which was such a blessing. And I'm so grateful for. But the pregnancy was really difficult. And so was the delivery. And so there was no way I was going to be working on my master's while I was doing that. And I'd worked with my therapist to become a coach. And my practice is called Soul Clarity Coaching. And that's something that I do on the side with, I work with a few clients. I've had, actually quite a few clients, but I don't like to have too many clients at a time just because I want to be able to give them the presence that I feel they deserve. And I also don't want to take away from my time with my family and add an extra stressor that isn't fair to anyone kind of all around. And so that's been a really great and wonderful part of my life. I've also gotten to lead some circles, women's circles, which I was introduced to through the yoga community here in California. I've been so grateful for the community that I have here. I made so many incredible friends. We both have incredible friends all around. We're so grateful for those relationships in our life. And I'll let Dina speak to that too. And then I also started a newsletter a couple years ago. And so I'm hoping to start writing again this year. I'm hoping to add more love to the world. And we want to not be weighed down by the state of the world. Even sitting here talking about this, we do fully recognize that there's people who are experiencing things that are far, far more difficult than what we've experienced and where we are. And I never mean to say that as a way to downplay your own feelings. I don't think that's entirely fair to put your own feelings down. And I think we actually talk about this in the next episode. If your pain doesn't feel as big as someone else's, doesn't mean that it's not real to you, because you can only know what you're experiencing. I heard it said that to have joy and to just have gratitude is one of the most true acts of rebellion, one of the most powerful acts of rebellion to hardship in the world. That for the people that can't be, maybe feeling the things that we are, or even experiencing life, making the most of the life that you have and the privileges and opportunities that you have to choose love anywhere, to bring more joy in the world, or to serve people around you. That is one of the greatest acts of rebellion against poor leaders or painful things or wars or terrible atrocities that are happening in the world. We want to be a space where we're adding more love and
For safety too.
yeah,
I think that just speaks to what I was saying earlier about trauma and how everybody's idea of trauma, it's that perceived helplessness. That same feeling, it's still the same in your body, even if the way it happens or the experience of it
yeah.
looks very different.
And we want to say too that I know that things can feel heavy, that the world can feel heavy, and especially right now, and that maybe the greatest thing you could do is actually make the most of your life. And something that I want to share, actually, if it's okay that I share it right now. I've been really inspired by this. It's on Substack, speaking of newsletters and stuff too. It's a really beautiful little excerpt from this piece this woman is writing, and she shared it on her Substack. Her name is Vidya. It's spelled Vidya. If you want to look her up, she's an amazing writer. But I just wanted to share this I've shared it to my friends. If you have received this message from me, you'll recognize this, but I just felt deeply inspired by it. And so I just wanted to share it now because I feel like it's on theme with what we're talking about in some ways. So she writes, the figs will rot if you don't eat them. The jasmine blooms for 3 weeks and then it's over. Your body at 25 will never come back, and neither will your body at 45. Everything you're saving for later spoils in the waiting. That person who makes your pulse quicken when they walk into a room, temporary. The way afternoon light falls across your kitchen table in September, seasonal. The feeling of being so happy you forget to be afraid, fleeting. And somehow that makes it more, not less. We get maybe 70 summers if we're lucky, 70 times to taste peaches at their peak, 70 Augusts to swim in water so warm it feels like absolution, 70 chances to fall in love with the same person in different ways or different people in the same way. The heartbreak teaches you how to hold joy when it comes back round. The rejection shows you what you actually want. The loneliness is what makes you recognize home when you finally find it. None of it is wasted if you let it change you. The timer is running whether you're paying attention or not. The fruit is ripening. The light is shifting. Your one wild temporary life is happening right now. And the only tragedy is treating it like a dress rehearsal. Reach, risk, let yourself want things out loud. The worst that happens is you feel everything. The disappointment, the ecstasy, the full spectrum of being alive in a body that won't last forever. The impermanence isn't the problem. The impermanence is the point.
I love that so much.
Me too. It's so beautiful. And I've just been thinking about it so much. Like I keep going back to it and it like touched something in my soul of what I think our life has taught us. I know something my mom always says in our family. It's like when something bad happens, it's like, well, at least you're okay. Like that has always been kind of the response. It's like an
At least
accident.
you're healthy. If
At least
everybody's
you're healthy.
healthy, everything's good.
Everything's okay. Like, it's not the worst thing. It's just money. And yeah, that might be a luxury to say that, but it's like that isn't always a luxury. It's not like we come with so much money or anything. And so I think that that is kind of, I don't know, what our story has taught us is that those words resonate for that reason.
I wanted to also touch on this really important part of our upbringing is that when we moved here, we thought we were going to get our mom all to ourselves. And then she had Alex and Katie. And I want to
Yeah,
just
I
give
was
a
just about
shout
to
out to Alex and Katie
the
because we
best.
love them dearly and like they are the best siblings. I feel like our
They're the
sibling group is just so close and we're so, so close and we love each other so much. I am the funniest. I'm just gonna put it out there. Dahlia and Katie, I'm sorry to expose you. They do pee their pants often when we are all together because we're just belly laughing. And I
okay, but
love that
Alex is also a pretty comedian in our family. So I
he
don't know. I
is,
think
but
Ryan and
we're
Alex.
definitely a different level of
Yeah,
funny.
it's
Also, it
different.
just like makes me feel better that he's our only brother. It's fine. But I do love how much we belly laugh. I love that we are all so silly together, and it is truly so fun. And we can recognize that now, but I can assure you, our 13-year-old selves and our 11-year-old selves, and the ones that had to share their mom that they just finally got to be with these siblings. And then our mom also, like Dahlia said, she did her best and her credits didn't transfer over to America. So she went, got her accounting degree here. She lived 2 hours
And her
away for some
CPA.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
her CPA. I mean,
Master's in accounting. I know she was
batty, like
smart. Yeah.
go off, queen, but she did. And she did go away. Like, and so again, our grandparents were now in America with us for 6 months out of the year helping. And then we also were helping raise our siblings at a
Because
very young
grandparents
age.
speak English, yeah.
Yeah, so I think also Dahlia and I have always naturally gravitated towards older people or wiser souls or just found a lot of comfort with other people who were more parental, or we were kind of like the mothers of our friend groups, even though we also were pretty rebellious and really wild and free. And I think we were trying to like be kids, but then also trying to be responsible and navigating that that's also a whole nother set of challenges. And I just want to say that for the people that have had to be a parental figure in
I hear
their
you. siblings, yeah.
Yeah, and they're within their siblings, and I'm the middle child, but I felt like an older sibling a lot of the time, and then also with you, I think for a while after you left, I would whenever it was just you and I think we had a really hard time because I would be such a child around you because I would just totally embrace the little sibling because I didn't want it was like, now that I'm not
You were
the
tired of
older
being the older sibling, yeah,
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
and so then I would come to you, and then when you had your girls, it was so hard because now I'm like, "Well, she's mine first. What do you mean? Like, now you're gonna take care of them because you mothered me in so many ways." And
Mhm.
so even being back now that we were together, I still wanna talk about our trip together, the last month, but we can do that, like,
I
episode
think we're doing that
5 or
episode
something or
4,
4.
yeah, 4
Oh,
or 5.
okay. Yeah. Well, I just wanna say that has also been something we have navigated with our parents, with our siblings, and like Dahlia said, it's a journey, and it's almost like having faith in it, and then also
Mm.
knowing that everything's a choice, and I think something I often find a lot of my closest, those soul relationships, are people who have gone through deep hardships, and I think they all are so genuine and so kind, and I find that sometimes I'm making excuses for people. Like I was telling one of my friends, I'm like, "Oh, well, this girl was mean, but her dad died and this happened and this like happened." And then we're sitting there and my friend's like, "Well, my dad died of cancer and I did this." I was like, "Wait, what? Like your dad died of cancer?" And like then I'm seeing somebody else. It's just you meet people who have had the same experiences, but the way they handle them and what they choose to make out of them is what makes the difference.
Or
And I think,
or also what part of the journey they're in, what part of their healing
yes,
they're in. Like, that's the
that's
thing is
yes.
you're meeting someone, we change moment to moment. So, it's this idea that, like, not to take it too personally because
Well,
we're
that's what
all
I was gonna say is I think I had for a long time when you have this and I know you don't like this term, I don't actually really like it either, the, like, victim mentality. I think it's not so much about victim
we
mentality, I
talk
think
about
it's
it in the
just
next too.
yeah, I think it's just more of, like, not having the self-awareness or understanding that you actually do have so much more power than you realize, and you have so much more control over your life and your emotions and how you perceive the world than you think, and
Yeah,
that starts with you, and that starts within, and it's I just wanna say when it's painful and deeply uncomfortable and you cry and it breaks your heart to recognize how much ownership and control and power you actually have over some of the like the way you move through the world. It's a lot
yeah.
of responsibility. Taking that responsibility, sometimes it's so much easier to blame it on others and be like, let all the things happen to me, the good and the bad. But it really feels so powerless. And I actually think there's a lot less fulfillment in that for me personally. I just want to say it's not meant to feel like this beautiful thing. I saw somewhere also on a podcast, somebody said, like, we kind of make growth seem like this beautiful blossoming flower when really it's actually like deeply painful. It hurts a lot. It's really uncomfortable. Like, growing is painful. I call it growing pains. And I just say that because it's almost like sometimes you have to go through that discomfort and take that
Mm,
and then move
yeah.
through it, and I think that you come out so much better, so much stronger, and so much more gentle with yourself and with others on the other side, and a lot more compassionate and graceful, and I think something I always remind myself now, because I've gone through so much growth in different areas of my life, is
Mm.
to always remember to have grace. Like, when I want to beat myself up, when I decide to take ownership for something, it's like, "Oh, okay, I need to have grace with myself because I was also doing my best at that time." So, if you're finding that you're in that part of the journey where you're kind of angry at the world, also have grace, like, you needed to have anger at the world for that at that time. That was you doing your best, and, um
Sometimes it motivates us to get through hard things, and sometimes we need that anger and we use it and we make it work for us, and that's sometimes the best you have to offer, and it's okay. But I wanted to say, like, as far as our story goes, right, we did do a little about us that we shared on Instagram the last couple days, and then I did wanna say there's a couple questions that I had for us, and I think maybe we close with some of these things, and also just wanna say too, Valentine's Day is coming up, and our episode's gonna come out, like, a couple days before Valentine's Day, and we just wanted to say that we will be releasing something, like a little surprise on Valentine's Day. And yeah, it'll be on theme with love and self love and some inner child work. So stay tuned for that. But to end this, to like close the episode, obviously, Dina said we had Katie and Alex. Katie and Alex came into the world. They are our best friends. We love them. And then, right, I had moved on to where we were, but you didn't get to share where you ended up. So,
Yes, I actually just applied. Maybe I'm exposing myself here, but I just applied to a DNP school today. So that's cool.
yay.
Yeah, I hope I get in for psychology. And I am a nurse. I do telehealth now, but I've been a bedside nurse doing traveling far, but mostly locally as well for 5.5 years now. I think it's a great field. I don't know that I would recommend it, but I do. I mean, I would because it's given me a lot of flexibility, freedom in so many ways.
You're also
And
an amazing nurse.
thank you. Yeah, I think it's also shown me a lot. I'm very curious about humans and how we all show up in the world and nature versus nurture, all of that. So, anyways, I'm living in Tampa, Florida now. I'm single. I also was married, but did my whole thing there. Maybe we'll talk about that one day.
I think
Um,
we will,
but
yeah.
but I now am living here. I don't know that I'll stay here. My lease ends in October, but I have the most incredible friends. I love them so dearly. You know who you are. I love them. I love you, Dahlia. You're one of my best friends. I did marathons last year. I'm doing a high rocks. I'm
She's
supposed to be.
3.
I
I
have,
know I already bragged
yeah,
on her,
I
but
know
I'm just
I
gonna
am.
repeat it.
My hamstring is a little messed up, so we're gonna see how that goes. It's a little touch and
Yeah.
go, but I love movement, nature, waking up early, running in the sunrise. Yeah, I just love all things that are beautiful. I think connection means a lot to me. I love music, love dancing, all the things. So that's kind of where I'm
Such
at.
a well-rounded human.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I did have another question that I wanted to ask about relationships. I wanted to have asked more questions, but maybe we'll do that another time. If maybe anybody else has questions about our story, feel free to submit some of those questions, send them in wherever you want. I think Instagram, right, is probably the easiest thing. What is one way, if you had to share one thing that helps you regulate right now, what is that?
Oh, it's such a good question. I know people say don't look back at the past and reminisce on the past, and maybe that doesn't serve me well sometimes, but
Mhm.
I love nothing more than to look back at how I have survived every single thing I thought I couldn't, and how, like, the beginning of things are meant to be really challenging when you start something and you feel like you're gonna die, quite literally, and then you survive and you make it through. And I just remember the times when I could not possibly understand why something is happening and how I have always, always been able to figure it out later on, and how
Mhm.
without that thing, I could never be enjoying. Like, there have been core moments in my life where I'm just so deeply grateful to be in that moment. And I recognize that I could never have had that moment if it weren't for that really awful thing. And I'm not saying that every awful thing is like taking you somewhere great, but it's kind of like that thing I sent you earlier today. I think Jenna Zoe posted it. It's every single thing is either a blessing or a blessing in disguise. And I think that is absolutely true. I have lived that truth many, many times. And
Yeah.
that just to remember that truth, to remember that everything is a blessing and pausing and just knowing, taking that moment to just really be like, thank you, even if I don't mean it. Just being like, thank
Mhm.
you. I don't understand it, but I'm thankful for it. In this moment, may I just have faith.
Yeah, you're so good at that, of trying to do that. Yeah. I
What
love that.
about
Thank
you?
Well, there's so many ways, but I'm gonna share one that I like think is something you could implement, which is walking away. Just stepping away for a moment, walking away, not saying the thing, not doing anything about it. Just pause and breathe. Just step away from a moment. Nothing needs to be resolved right now. You have time. Just walk away and then come back when you feel a little bit more regulated. I think
It's
that
really
that is
good.
I'm a person who always wanted to resolve things right away, but I've learned that it is just because I really want to be heard right then. But oftentimes what I want to say at that moment is coming from a hurt place. And of course that part of me wants to be seen, but maybe walking away and talking to myself about it even, or saying a prayer or whatever you might need, I think is just it's worth it to try and say what you mean or what you feel when you are more regulated and able to be respectful with your words and think about the person in front of you. Because when you're dysregulated, it's very hard to think about the person before you. You're thinking about your pain and what you're feeling. And it's almost impossible to expect that out of yourself in that moment. And then I think we'll probably do a marriage episode at some point where we'll do like a little interview about that. Cause like I have a couple things that I did want to talk about in that, but we'll save that for a future episode.
Mhm.
And
I like that. We should speak on
yeah,
relationships, all that. Yeah.
yeah, relationships, yeah. And so, yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We know it was like a little bit all over the place, but our story is kind of that way. And so it's quite hard for us to actually wrap it up into like a 30-minute episode. So we hope that you got to know us better and that you felt seen in some way or that you walk away from this having more grace for yourself and the people in your life. And also, in the theme of Valentine's Day, we wanted to just share some love and encourage you. We'll do it right now too. But if you think of someone in your life right now that you wanted to send like a message to and share some love with them, maybe you think of your favorite thing about them, or maybe you think of someone in your life that you wish you had more grace with, or that you miss, or whatever it is, whatever washes over you in this moment, just follow that feeling and send the love. Cause, as Dina says, that you'll never regret sharing love with others. And in that same theme, I wanted to share how much I love Dina. And one, she's hilarious. She actually is. I miss how often I laugh when I'm with her. Like that makes my life just, I don't know, it makes it so magical in this way that laughing just feels so good. Laughing just
It
feels so
really does. It's
and
so
she
fun.
really makes life so fun. But on a more deeper way is your curiosity. I love your curiosity. I love that you're such a great student in life. And I think we're going to do an episode about your curiosity just because I think it's deeply inspiring. And the way that you shift through, the emotion of at first when you don't understand something, you're a little defensive about it. But then your curiosity just like kind of steps to the forefront and suddenly you get it and you're like, well, yeah, 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 that makes sense because this. Yeah, you just move through life being like, okay, what's the next thing? Change my mind. I'm just kidding. But you're so willing to change your mind. And I think that's so beautiful.
Thank you, because I feel like that was something I was taught was like, "Dina, you're always changing your mind." And always had so much insecurity about that, but now that I get older, I'm like, yeah, to change is to change your mind. Of course, you change moment to moment, and how beautiful is that that I have changed my mind about so many of my beliefs or, like, what I think, so thank you so
Of
much.
course. Yeah,
Um
yeah.
well, I probably have changed my mind a lot because of one of my favorite things about you and something I deeply love about you is your example.
Thank
Your example of love. I actually started reading or listening to The Mystic Jesus because you recommended that
love that.
book. But I always would tell people the way I would describe you is like the most Christ-like person I know. And I know you don't
Mm,
probably don't
thank
even
you.
like that term, but
No, almost that's a big like thing to live up to.
But you are so deeply patient and you're so regulated, and actually one of the ways yes, I guess I regulate more personally by, like, reminding myself of how I've done this before and how I made it through, but I guess in the moment, you've really taught me the safety and you've given me the example, like, I just so love your patience and how safe you are, and I know I'm so annoying too, like, I can be deeply annoying, and so just take up a lot of space, but you let me in this way that you don't feel you're not resentful or angry. You're just so patient. And the way I watch you with the girls and with Derek and with everyone in the world, you could have so many excuses. Again, just going back to that thing of like, yeah, you have
Yeah,
so many excuses to be angry, to be upset, to be reactive, and you just aren't. And it takes so much
that's so
patience, but
sweet.
you make it look so easy. And you've just taught me that sometimes it's just easier and better and kinder to just name your emotion than to, like, act
Yeah.
on your emotion, but to name it. And I feel like your example and safety has allowed me to feel safe doing that, and now I that is probably, like, the best way I stay regulated in a moment, like, real time.
Mm.
And I just love your example so much, and when I think about a lot of my big life decisions, I'm like, what would Dahlia do? What would Dahlia do? It's so funny because I have to come to it on my own, but you're always my, like, guiding light. You're like
That's
my
so
little
sweet.
lighthouse, you know? And
Yeah,
you're
but
like
you've
that
got
for
the
so many
answers
people in your
within you.
life. It's also
Yeah.
why I wanted to start this
Yeah.
podcast again, not to circle back to that, but
Not to circle back to why we
may you
started.
be a lighthouse for all the people listening.
That's so sweet. That is really, really sweet, Tina. Thank you so much. I love
Mhm.
that. Well, in the spirit of love, we hope that you felt it, that you go and send it to someone or just go share it with someone in person if there's someone, near you in your
Yeah, and
life.
don't overthink it, don't
Another-
overthink
Don't
it.
overthink it.
Just
Just whatever comes
just
to your mind
act on it, yeah.
in
Just
this
trust
moment.
it.
Yeah.
Practice faith, practice choosing love anyway. Do
Practice
your
your
thing.
tuition. You got
Yeah.
this. We hope you have the most beautiful weekend. Happy Valentine's, Galentine's. We
Which,
hope.
by the way, can we just say also Valentine's Day is our 21-year anniversary. We came here on
Oh, yes.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, so this
So,
is kind of kismet that we're talking about our
yes.
story and when we moved to America. Um, yeah, we came here 21 years ago on Valentine's Day. Well, that's always been actually like a family celebration in our house. So our dad would always get all of us gifts for Valentine's Day as like a way to say happy Valentine's Day, but also like our
Also, I don't know why I really feel like we need to specify this. Our biological dad died when we were in like 7th and 8th grade.
oh,
I
yeah,
feel like
that's a
that's a
part of
really
the
big,
story that is a big part of the story that we really didn't say.
and we didn't
But
talk about like our name changes. Sorry, I'm like totally, this is my ADHD, but we
no,
didn't
but
say
I think
this.
we're just gonna have to do another
But I
episode
think we will
that,
just have to do another episode on
about
that.
family as immigrants and, like, our experience being,
Yeah, but I do wanna say whenever we do say dad, it is talking about our stepdad, who we now do consider like, that is who we
yeah,
consider our dad.
we hadn't seen our real dad since we were 6. Well, since I was 6 and
Yeah,
Vito was 5.
yeah.
And, I
So,
haven't spoken to him since I was 9, and then
yeah,
he passed away, unfortunately. We have lots of grace and love for him as well, and we can talk about that in future
yeah.
episodes, the relationship of that, but, yeah, when we talk about dad, we're talking about our stepdad who we've called dad ever since he came into our life. Thanks for clarifying
Alright,
that.
yeah, yeah, but yes, it is our anniversary. We love love. We are grateful to be here. We're grateful that you are here. Sorry, this might be very close to an hour episode, but we hope like we said, it's just impossible, and we're gonna release judgment because it's impossible to fit our life story, even a summary of it, in such a limited time.
Okay. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you have a beautiful day. As we said, happy Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day, and we will see you next time. And remember to choose love anyway. Bye.
Bye.